Aliens tried to clone a human soldier, but they couldn't handle the result. The Xirathi thought they could copy us. They thought they could strip away what makes us human and turn us into perfect soldiers. But when they cloned Sergeant Daniel Hayes, they didn't just create soldiers, they created something they could never control. This is the story of why you can copy our DNA, but you can never clone the human spirit. Sergeant Daniel Hayes never thought he'd wake up strapped to an operating table inside an alien ship. His last memory was of a battle in the jungles of Papua New Guinea, his squad ambushed, plasma fire raining from the sky. Now, he lay bound, cold light above him, the air humming with machinery far beyond anything human. Alien silhouettes moved around him, tall, insectoid figures with carapace armor and silver surgical instruments. One leaned close, mandibles clicking. A translator device spat out the words. Subject identified, Homo sapiens. Classification, unusually resilient. Proceed with extraction. Hayes gritted his teeth. He didn't know what extraction meant, but he had a feeling he wouldn't like it. The aliens, the Xirathi, were master geneticists. To them, DNA was just clay, ready to be shaped into soldiers, workers, or slaves. They had fought countless species, but humanity intrigued them. Fragile bodies. Short lives. And yet, they had resisted harder than most advanced empires. The Xirathi wanted to know why. So they took Daniel Hayes, decorated veteran of a dozen skirmishes, and made him their template. Blood was drawn. Cells extracted. Within weeks, vats bubbled with cloned tissue. Soon, there stood not one Daniel Hayes, but 5. At first, the clones were perfect. Muscular, obedient, and enhanced with alien biotechnology. The Xirathi marveled at their strength. But quickly, problems emerged. Clone number 1 refused to march in formation. Instead, he started humming, an old Earth song, ignoring orders. Clone number 2 laughed during a combat drill, startling the researchers. Laughed, something no Xirathi soldier had ever done. Clone number 3 questioned everything. Why attack this target? Why not another? What's the strategy? Clone number 4 kept staring at his own hands, as if in awe of simply existing. Clone number 5 escaped his containment within an hour, not by force, but by tricking a guard into thinking he was authorized to leave. The Xirathi were alarmed. These weren't soldiers. They were chaotic. Meanwhile, the real Daniel Hayes, still imprisoned, watched from behind reinforced glass. He couldn't believe his eyes. 5 versions of himself, each acting differently, like pieces of his personality split apart. He whispered under his breath, "You idiots. You didn't clone soldiers. You cloned humans." The Xirathi didn't understand. To them, soldiers were soldiers. Discipline and obedience could be engineered. But humanity wasn't built that way. Humanity was messy. Unpredictable. Free. The clones began influencing each other. Clone number 1 taught clone number 2 how to whistle. Soon, the whole batch was making noise in the barracks, disrupting alien routines. Clone number 3 convinced clone number 4 to help him test the boundaries. Together, they mapped patrols, guard shifts, and ventilation ducts. Clone number 5. He was already smuggling stolen tools, bribing alien technicians with jokes they barely understood. The Xirathi tried punishment. Isolation. Shock therapy. But the more they pushed, the more the clones resisted. Their human nature wasn't a defect. It was spreading like wildfire. One day, during a combat simulation, the clones were ordered to eliminate holographic targets. Instead, clone number 3 shouted, "Targets? These are civilians." He refused to fire. The others followed his lead. The Xirathi screamed in outrage. Soldiers obeyed. Soldiers killed. Soldiers did not question morality. Hayes laughed from his cell. Yeah. Now you're learning. You can copy our muscles, but you'll never copy our souls. It happened faster than the Xirathi could react. Clone number 5 bypassed a security lock. Clone number 2 distracted the guards with jokes. Clone number 1 started a riot by breaking formation and shoving an officer. And suddenly, 5 clones turned into 50. The VATs had been working non-stop. Entire squads of human copies poured into the corridors, each unique, each unpredictable. Some were reckless. Some were cautious. Some sang battle songs while charging headfirst into plasma fire. The Xirathi's perfect order collapsed into chaos. The clones didn't move like soldiers. They moved like humans. Improvising. Flanking. Breaking rules the aliens didn't know could be broken. In the chaos, clone number 4 reached Hayes' cell. "Are you the original?" he asked, voice trembling. Hayes nodded. "The name's Daniel Hayes. Sergeant. United Earth Forces." Clone number 4 saluted, awkward but sincere. "Then lead us." Hayes felt a chill. These weren't just copies. They were his brothers. Pieces of himself, multiplied. He grabbed a stolen plasma rifle. "All right then. Let's show these bugs how humans fight." The Xirathi unleashed their war machines. Towering drones. Swarms of bioengineered hounds. Plasma cannons tearing holes through the walls. But the clones adapted. Where one fell, 2 learned from his mistake. Where the aliens expected fear, they got defiance. Clone number 1 charged headlong, taking fire to cover his squad. Clone number 2 leapt onto a drone's back, ripping wires with bare hands. Clone number 3 barked orders like a seasoned commander. Clone number 4 dragged the wounded to safety. Clone number 5 hacked into the ship's navigation. And Hayes was everywhere. Leading. Fighting. Bleeding. By the time the Xirathi realized what was happening, it was too late. The humans, original and cloned, had taken the ship. In the aftermath, Hayes stood on the bridge, surrounded by dozens of clones. Some were laughing. Some were crying. Some were arguing over what to do next. The Xirathi prisoners watched in disbelief. To them, this was madness. Disorder. Failure. But Hayes looked around and saw something else. Something the aliens would never understand. "Look at you," he said softly. "You're not copies. You're not soldiers. You're human." One of the clones asked, "What does that mean?" Hayes smiled grimly. "It means you're free. It means you get to decide. And it means no one, not even the best scientists in the galaxy, can predict what you'll do next." Word spread quickly. Other alien empires heard whispers, ** The Xirathi tried to clone a human. They lost control, ** Reports described clones as uncontrollable, dangerous, even contagious, because their defiance inspired enslaved species everywhere. The galaxy didn't see it as a failure of science. They saw it as a warning. You could copy human DNA. You could copy our bodies. But you could never clone the human spirit. And to the Xirathi, that truth was more terrifying than any weapon.